Hey Internet, this is Gunter with MiniMishaps, and for Tourism Appreciation Day, we are going to be ranking all of the folks at the new Anfang Academy in terms of how much they travel. Alright, so this is my first tier making video. So that's exciting and a lot of fun, and it's going to be a chance for me to share a whole bunch of stories from the Geodiverse, which is also fun. And so yeah, we're going to get to know the staff and visitors of the new Anfang Academy. You can check out the codex. You can pick that up from DriveThruRPG. It's available there, and we're going to jump right in. Alright, so first up, we have got Hatrik Get, and Hatrik is one of the founders, along with Teravis, of the new Anfang Academy. Now, we're going to be ranking these guys after they came out of the Sky Portal, so how much traveling they did and do in the current version of the Geodiverse. And Hatrik Get has basically landed and then created the Academy and hasn't really left it at all. So we're going to put him down here under I prefer my Hubble. Alright, so next up we've got Teravis. He is the opposite. So where Hatrik sat and made the Academy happen locally and on site at the campus, Teravis arrived from the Sky Portal, and he immediately went to work going to far-flung towns. He went across to the other continent to meet heroes and try and bring the best of the best as instructors. So he did all the recruiting and hiring for the Academy, but it was all contained to the continent and the second continent. So we are going to put him into the "there is more room on the inside" category. Which is just short of the top one, To Infinity and Beyond, is more about visiting other planes and getting out of the world and those kinds of things. So we might move him around a little bit later. Teravis might end up moving up because he is the only person that's ever returned after being able to leave through the Sky Portal. So that's a unique kind of travel to him. So next up we have got Irie, and Irie is the registrar, and she's an android, and she is a Mandabarkian creation modeled after Eirika, who was an elven queen that was turned into a sword that was turned into an android. And so she's the sort of emulation of that, and but she essentially is trapped most of her existence in the lab that she was created in. She is the caretaker of Rick, which we'll get to near the end of the list, and she traveled down to Atlica in order to meet her self, or the first version that she was modeled after. And so we're going to put her right up there with the Now You're Playing with Portals, because she did go across a whole continent, but not really beyond, and not a lot. So, all right. Next up, we have got Haksha, is the finance officer for the Academy. She's a little bit more of a kind of a mafia tax collector, but or at least that was her old life in Atlica, and she traveled from Atlica to the Academy, but otherwise hasn't really done much. She has gone to Capital City, but that's not too far, so she's going to be right in the middle there as well. Sliceja, the orc, is next, and he is going to actually be right up there with Teravis, because Sliceja is a hero of the old world, so he did all kinds of adventuring and exploring before the world ended and then this current world was created. He went all over the continents after the old world heroes were awoken before the Battle of Castle Yagzu, and traveled across 2 continents to get to the battle to help out. So we'll put him right up there. Hasn't left the plains, but again might move up because he did exist in a world that isn't around anymore. So, all right. Next up, we've got Cutter Fungathorn. He is the school's nurse and medic. He essentially appeared from the sky portal again and didn't really go anywhere. So he is more or less. I'm going to put him on the second tier there because he mostly stays, but just actually in the recent last couple of weeks of sessions, he has traveled down to visit with his cousin near Atlica at the floating islands there. So he has made one singular trip, but otherwise pretty much stays on campus. Bompot Winklebaum is another one that came from the old world, and he went around after being recruited by Teravis. He did a lot of the recruiting with him and does the current recruiting for students. So he goes around to the different cities and tries to get people to come to the academy to learn to be adventurers. Alright, Barnegus Bubbletongue is a Frogagog, which is this universe's anthropomorphic frog. He came from the sky portal and essentially landed there and stayed there, and he's a greeter. He welcomes people from the sky portal and beyond, but doesn't really leave the campus. So he is right there with the I prefer my Hubble crowd. Alright, next we've got Banjo Tallwiggle. Banjo is a Bulldork, and he is from the tribe north of the Deadlands, which are now no longer the Deadlands, but the Drow Empire there. And so he had traveled from that region to the academy, and after that hasn't really left. I'm going to put him in the second tier because he has gone occasionally on trade missions and things as security to Rivercrest and the capital city and things like that. So we'll put him in the second tier. Alright, Garrett Jallock is our barbarian instructor. He's a Cyclodon gnome from the Sanfei region, and outside again of traveling from the forest to the academy, hasn't really done a lot, but he does have that kind of barbarian need to be out on the plain. And so he does do little day trips and things away. We'll put him in the second from the bottom one there. All right, next we've got Lokani Niacha, and she's a Dragonborn, and she came from I think the Sky Portal or Capital City. But she again mostly lives on campus. Doesn't really get a lot of chances to travel, so she is going to be in that, based at the academy group. Alright, Geod is our fighter head instructor, and she is a Mazigmi. And so the Mazigmis actually came from the old world as well, and she actually traveled really far across the continent to come to the academy, and she makes regular treks back to the Mazigmi jungle. So we're going to put her up here on the Now You're Playing with Portals. She doesn't leave the continent, and it's the same route that she travels, but she does get to travel far and with some frequency. So we'll put her up there with Hawkshaw and Irie. Alright, Crowway Flexbar is a dwarf from Kunbudur, and she came to help at the Battle of Castle Yangzhou and then stayed at the academy, and pretty much hasn't left the academy since then. She's made 1 or 2 treks back to Kunbudur, so we'll put her down there to the I would walk 500 miles. Alright, so next we've got Corster and his Snow Leopard Silverflake, and they they maybe run slight errands for the Academy to Rivercrest or to Capital City, but they don't really do a whole lot outside of the campus, so they're going to be there next, second to the bottom of the tier there as well. Rothillian is next, and he is one of the small group that works to make sure that people falling out of the sky portal don't get hurt. So he rescues them as they're falling with the rest of that little group. But he mainly stays on campus, hasn't really gotten out to do much in the way of adventuring, so we'll put him down there in the I prefer my hovel. Now we've got Biplin, and Biplin has about 15 names. He's got a very long string of silly sounding known names. But for being the head of the spellcasting department, he doesn't really travel. So we're going to put him down here at the bottom. Tarulna Feathershine is another one that mainly teaches, but she'll come into New Anfang to do open mic night and those kinds of things. They'll do little trips with the students into Capital City and Rivercrest, so we're going to put her up here. Luggy Anvilbrew is the rare spellcasting dwarven wizard, and his favorite thing to do is fly, and he flies all over the place. He flies across the continent, and he can be gone days at a time just traveling and seeing the world. So we're going to put him right up here with Now You're Playing with Portals, because he doesn't usually fly over either of the oceans to the other continents, so we'll put him up there. Alright, we've got Annuncia, and she is a fallen radiant, and pretty much sticks on the Academy, hasn't really done any adventuring much that way. Alright, we are on to Bravery Boulder Dash. She's an Otterkin from Atlica, and she has been all over the Neocap and all over the continent. She has traveled with adventurers across the Impossible Sea, and she has even gone as far as the Key Swallow maximum security prison on the western continent. So she's right up there with the folks that travel the most. We have got Prevliva Katu. She is a special case in this scenario because she is the instructor of divination. So she has traveled to places in her mind's eye and in her magic that she hasn't traveled to beyond. She is a Barovian native, and so that's pretty close to the Academy, and she doesn't travel a lot outside that. But because of their gift and places that she's been seeing into the future and ethereally and those kinds of things, we're going to put her right here in the Playing with Portals, even though her physical form hasn't been to a lot of the places that she's visited. So kind of a special case there. Alright, we've got Morlane, Molly, Amicade, and a Skyfell elf that hasn't really left the Academy. Occasionally visits the elves in the Sanfei, but doesn't travel a whole lot, so we'll put him there. Next we've got Journey Firewit, and Journey is a internal favorite of the MiniMishaps folks, and he travels on errands for the campus, and he'll stay on the Neocap, but he'll go around on the Neocap, so we'll put him up here. Alright, Cozy the Penguin is actually an old world being, adventurer, player character, time traveler, has been to other planes, and right now is the illusionist head in residence at the Academy. But she still has contacts in her time bureau sort of setup, and occasionally will sign up to help with more cosmic interactions. So she's going to go up here to infinity and beyond per those extra faraway adventures to the cosmos. Alright, so next up we have got Ember, and she's a necromancer, doesn't travel. She left the Sanfei because she was kind of misunderstood there and found refuge at the Academy, so she will essentially stay there unless it's needed elsewhere. But alright, we've got Ruba, another transplant from Atlica. She's a camellia, and she has done some sailing, and she has done some exploring and things like that. So she's done a lot more behind the scenes, not in sessions, but in some of the storytelling, virtual adventures and stuff. So we're going to put her up there. Alright, next up we have got Perdita Smith, and if you can't tell by that name, that's not her real name. Spoiler alert, if you're a player in one of my sessions, Perdita Smith is actually the depowered Grommakin goddess Athena, Greco-Roman Grommakin. And so she still has some of her power, enough to travel beyond regular means, and so she's going to go up there with the to infinity beyond, because her travel can include, the bottom of the ocean and places that aren't readily accessible, as well as pocket planes where the different Grommakin gods are hiding, and the time stream and different things like that. Alright, Lustre. Lustre is one that loves New Anfang, the township, loves the Academy, but pretty much stays there. As he's found his family there, so we're going to put him down there with the stay in town. So, Naf is another special case for travel, because Naf is blind, and he's a druid, but his specialty is old world artifacts and old world tombs and libraries and places of power and portals, and so he's actually traveled more probably than anyone else that hasn't left the plane. So he goes along in adventures. He's got his seeing eye panther taboo with him, and so we're going to put Naf right up there. Moonridge, I believe is his last name, right up there with the planar travelers there. Alright, next up we've got Pony Tiger Soul, and he's a monk. He's a player character. He's from the old world. He's been all over the place, and he is now retired. He opened up a monastery to Shanat, Eater of Ships, and has been all over all the continents. So we're going to put him up there. He could get access to planar travel if he set his mind to it. We're going to put him up there as well. Alright, Holiman Melabine is a warlock that landed, did a stint with the guards of Capital City, and left the more military lifestyle to kind of be one with nature. So he travels for the same reasons that our barbarian friends travel. So he has to go on his vision quests every so often. So we're going to put him up here. He mainly stays within the Neocap, so we'll put him right in the middle. Alright, now we've got Fraga. Fraga Yaga is an Aneromancer, which means she casts frogs as her primary thing that she does. So it's unknown where she came from, if she's Skyfell or local or Barovian possibly. But she has spent a good amount of her time on the Neocap Cliff with her sister, Baba Fraga. And so Fraga Yaga and Baba Fraga. So there's two Aniramancer twins. And she has come to the academy, and although she frequently travels to go see her sister and go down the Neocap down to Lower Linesbach. We're going to put her in the middle as well. Next, we've got Noara. Noara is a local of Capital City. She grew up in the streets and eventually took ownership over the Thieves Guild there. And after the city fell to the undead and Yagzu, once the city was restored, she left that life and came to the academy to teach the covert arts to the students that are becoming rogues. So she travels back and forth across the Neocap. She has been once as far as Atlica, but not a whole lot beyond that, so another one right in the middle. Fancy Thunderfluff is our pixie. She's a longtime player character, one of the highest level characters in the known list of NPCs, and from the old world, adventures on the continent, off the continent, to other planes, and she actually attunes to the Edgeless Dagger, which would, if she wanted it to, allow her to kind of cut holes in the fabric of reality and walk through to nearly any place that she wanted to. So she's going to be up there with the heavy hitters there. Okay, we have got Chrysella, and Chrysella, once she landed, she essentially came to the academy. She went along with a couple of recruiting trips with Teravis, but didn't really care for it and ended up preferring to stay at the academy. So she forces herself to be social and go on little quests for the academy to Rivercrest or to the Sanfei, but it isn't her first preference. So she'll be down there with the travel a little, but not too much, folks. All right, Nithner and Dark Gaze. He is a foxskin from the Atlica region, and he travels more than he lets people know. He sneaks off campus to travel, but he doesn't go much beyond Capital City, or Blasthaven is his jam, so that's where he likes to go. So we're going to put him right in the middle, I guess, because he likes to travel. Alright, we've got Oran Nabeem, who is a drow diplomat from the Deadlands, and he's well dressed. He likes ceremony, he likes being in parades, and so he likes going with anytime the academy has something in another town. If they're retrieving delegates or if they're meeting with royalty, he wants to be right in on that. Hasn't had as much chance to travel as he wants. We're going to put him down here with the I was off 500 miles. Alright, next up we've got Narbeth. Now, Narbeth has traveled with player characters across both of the continents, across the sea, and has been on, even before meeting the player characters, she was a Bulldork translator, so she went all over the Bulldork Nation, meeting with other peoples and helping translate the uniquely physical Bulldork language. So if you don't know, Bulldork, the language actually has punches and hits as part of the grammar that's used. So we're going to put her up. Aside from leaving the plains, she's pretty much been all over and almost as much as a player character would be there. We have got Deronius Starlier, and he is sort of a bit of an enigma. He is a planar traveler, and he teaches, cosmic travel as his gig. So he is the head of the Bizarre Sciences division of the Academy. So little is known about him, but he is very powerful and can travel to other worlds pretty readily. Alright, Raz-Tosh-Vor was the first Neville to arrive from the Sky Portal, and he teaches all sorts of fantastical sciences, but has not really traveled since arriving from the Sky Portal. So he knows a lot about planar travel in theory, but hasn't got to put that into practice since arriving through the Sky Portal. Alright, we've got Baffle Agar is the magical geneticist, a Magineticist, and he did his training under the Magineticist. So he's got fins and gills and different things that he started as human, and now he's become more than that. He has traveled to find components and rituals and things to help augmentation technologies. He basically traveled all over helping gather the Mandabarkian tech after all of that was done. So we're going to put him up here with has traveled all over. Alright, we've got Sammy is up. Sammy is a bit of a unknown. From the Sky Portal, knows a lot about strange magical technologies and tinkering and mecha magic, mechology, but hasn't left the campus since arriving, so on this tier list doesn't really leave the bottom. Next up, we have got General Flogtrap Haderhosen III, Hoderheisen III, something like that. And so he is a self-important world-traveling gnome before coming through the Sky Portal, but now most of his travels are restricted to the Neocap. So we're going to put him right up here, I think. Yep, I think that should be good. Alright, Epathia is another unique case because she is the psionics and psychic instructor. So she has been to a lot of places in the minds of every other person that she's around. So we're going to partially count that, even though she doesn't really leave the campus. We're going to put her up there a little bit higher. We've got Laurel Elder, and she is a time travel expert and is currently trying to gather materials so that she can reconnect with that world. So we're going to be optimistic for her sake and say that she will eventually reconnect with that technology, and that will put her back up in the Infinity and Beyond category. She looks like she's a kid, but she is actually very old, and because of the time travel incident that trapped her here, she was trapped in a child body. So she's a super smart, but looks like a kid. Alright, next up we have got Teo Salazar of the family Salazar from Rivercrest. And if you don't know the Salazars, they are in the armory business and the security business, and they have an armory shop, leatherworking and armory in Rivercrest, and so Teo came to be the armorer, but otherwise, aside from Rivercrest and the Academy, not really a traveler, so we're going to put him right down there at the bottom. Alright, Tanya is up next, and Tanya has traveled from the Sanfei to the Academy Library and essentially lives there and studies her little heart out. She's not actually a student. She's helps out Grimble Bip as a waitress at the coffee shop, but she is as practiced and adept with most of the weapons and skills of an adventurer as any of the students, because she just plain lives for it. But she doesn't really leave campus and hasn't really found any opportunities to go beyond the campus. So she prefers her library, her hovel in the library. Alright, Grimble same thing. He landed from the sky portal, was rescued by Ninarth the half-dragon, and he said that he owed her a life debt, and she laughed it off and told him to go be a barista, and he did. So now he runs the coffee shop on the Academy. He has been on 1 or 2 trips to Rivercrest for supplies, but that was only before he had other people on the Academy, and that to help him with his supply runs. Alright, we have got Patch. Shadowhawk is another player character that's retired to become an NPC and has traveled the world and been off the planet in planes, time traveled, and survived the apocalypse of the old world. So she gets to join those top tier heroes up there. She's a phenomenal chef that's famous in Attica and different places like that, and actually has preferred to take on the chef role at the Academy at present. Alright, Mr. Buttons is the Yeti courier that comes from Capital City to drop off mail packages at the Academy, and so he's constantly going all over the Neocap, as far as Lower Mind Spa and as far north as the Bulldork Nation, and even to the Yetis beyond that. So he moves around a lot, he gets around, but he doesn't really leave the Neocap, so we're going to put him there right in the middle. Alright, Fletchney is a retired player character. He's actually my dad's old character, and he hasn't traveled much since taking the position as the groundskeeper at the Academy. So he has visited the Centaur Steps to find other centaurs from this world, but hasn't really traveled a lot outside of all of the adventuring that he did before this version of the world. Alright, we've got Cordric Wolfhind is another former Quinbadur resident that came to the Academy after the Undead Invasion. Hasn't really left the Academy after that, so he hangs out with those other homebodies there. Alright, we've got Brick, and Brick is another retired player character. He is the librarian at the Academy at present, and so he adventured all over. He's a cleric that also does skeletons and raises dead and things. So yeah, he's done lots of stuff, been all over, and so there he's right up near the top. Okay, we have got Rick, and Rick is another special case. Rick spent most of his early life in a Mandabarkian lab, and once he was freed, he and Irie came to the Academy, and he became something of a mascot. But he's a bit like Baby Jack Jack from The Incredibles, where the powers that he gained through being experimented on aren't exactly clear, and he has blipped out. He has disappeared, and people don't know where he goes when he does that. Secretly between you and me and the Dungeon Master screen, he doesn't go far. It's usually just to blip back to get a snack or or to leave a situation if he's uncomfortable. He doesn't use it for like exploring or going too far away. Right. And we have got Kolpachi is the last one. She is another planar traveler. She's a mechanist. She loves tech and machines, and she's got kind of a steampunk vibe from the Sky Portal. And she's the one in the world probably working the hardest to be able to go back. So she travels all over to find that Mandabarkian tech and otherworldly tech. So we're going to put her up. Fun fact, she has been arrested a couple of times in Capital City for disturbing the peace because she's been shouting too loudly about the Sky Portal and how important it is. So that is the new Anfang Academy staff and visitors ranked by how good they are at being tourists. So happy Tourist Appreciation Day. Go be a tourist. Go find some local epic, some local magic in your area, and tell us all about it in the comments. So if you like this kind of material, let us know. This is our first try at a tier video, and if you like our material in general, feel free to support us. We've got Patreon. You can subscribe to this channel and share the videos around, and we appreciate all that very, very much. So we will see you guys next time for the next video. Thanks, Internet.